Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Never before in the history of sports podcasts have two men brought you opinion and analysis like these two. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Reed Show.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on the Barroom Network. A good Thursday evening to all. Week 1 of football in the books here. Check us out on social media, by the way. Follow me at The Real Evan Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. And if you've missed any of our shows before, I know we're jumping time slots here and there, but thank you to the Barroom Network for being very flexible. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on iTunes, wherever you get your shows and podcasts from this Barroom Network. Don't forget to follow them at Barroom Network on social media as well. But a quick packed show. We're up against the gun to 8 o'clock, and it'll be all Bears pretty much. Maybe a couple quick hits on the rest of the NFL for sure. But briefly recapping, the great win over the 49ers and the slop 19-10. You don't have a fucking dome for that, man. That weather be damned. You will miss games like that. And you sit there and shout out to all the fans that actually went to the game that weren't sitting, in the media deck and covered, and get your slickers out and all that, because that was so fun to watch. Everybody was having a blast. Even better when your home team is winning like that. But we're going to get you ready for Bears Packers as well. Ross's keys to the game is Packers coming off a loss here. Exciting stuff, man. Football just all the way back. How you doing, Ross? How you feeling?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm girl dadding it up. Wife's in New Orleans, living her best life, and I'm left to pick up the pieces.
Jump down to the wedding, a couple weeks away.
Down the wedding, yeah. I say wife, but yeah, we did it backwards. We had a kid, and now we're getting married October 1st. Everybody, so send your gifts.
Got all shacked up.
Yeah, exactly. My she got the anchor baby on me. The Venmo is at Evan-McLean. Anyway, so we'll dive into Bears. If you want to send us a wedding gift, Bears 1-0 at home, and Eberflus debut, Ryan Poles debut, Justin Fields in his second year. A lot of stuff I want to touch on before we just preview this matchup, because obviously Thursday and that game is only a few days away here, but. The elements, it's funny, the people talking about bear weather and people talking about the rain, like, well, you missed that. These two teams had to play in this slop, and I'm seeing the first half, and I'm thinking, oh, boy, here we go again. This is just typical, and you're seeing these second-year struggles, and it's a different offensive line, kind of, getting their knees under them. Justin Fields not getting that chemistry. Defense had some, bigger plays that they would give up, but I mean, given the elements, when it started to rain even heavier in the second half, basically it was a tale of two halves, as we all know by now. But what an adjustment when you do that, too. And obviously, you're not going to light it up. We both knew that, you and I, Ross, that this was going to be very much the under type of game when whoever basically made the most out of those key plays would be the one to come out on top. In a 19-10 win for the Bears, it was them. And that Dante Pettis touchdown was just incredible from Justin Fields. He had such good awareness in the third quarter. He really got more comfortable. The Equanimeous St. Brown touchdown pass too. I think it was just really a thoroughly good performance by all three phases when you think about it. I know that obviously, Cairo Santos missing the extra point, but it was just garbage out there when the field, you saw them going in with sweepers trying to get the rain off. It was just incredible. That new AstroTurf just obviously just got beaten in, and you saw it was some weird games. The momentum of it obviously switched into the second half into the Bears' favors. but they finished so well. It was very surprising. I feel like when we talk about Bears debuts, it's pretty down. And sometimes it's, I mean, more often than not, I feel like it's a nice weather game. So to see the slop, it was really impressive to see them come out on top. And Justin Fields really saving the day and making those adjustments. Those 2 touchdown passes in the second half were great. Khalil Herbert on the ground. Roquan Smith, it was so funny, him mic'd up, just loving the slop. And then seeing it all pay off at the end with the slide, it was incredible with Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles exchanging hugs and Ryan Poles in his suit getting drenched. It was so cool. It was just what the Bears needed. And it was, again, just a big middle finger to the national media saying the Bears are going to be trash. And Colin Cowherd tweeting right away. I saw the Bears' first offensive series and I feel bad for Justin Fields. How'd you feel about it, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, listen, a win is a win, right? You're going to take an ugly win over a bad loss any day of the week. So they're 1-0. They beat a team that might be a Super Bowl contender this year, right? Justin Fields got the better of the matchup against the battle of 2 second-year quarterbacks, and what really stood out to me was how disciplined the team was on both sides of the field. And we saw that in the preseason. Matt Eberflus had this team playing very disciplined, not a lot of penalties, not a lot of mistakes on both sides of the field. To me, it's probably the biggest mistake of the game from just a mental standpoint, other than the Kyler Gordon kind of deep pass where he kind of let up there, was the kicking play, right? Was when they tried to mop up the field, that area there with a towel, and we all found out
nobody had ever heard
to the tune of many. No,
right.
Never heard of that rule before, which took 3 points off the board for the Bears, right? And then Santos missed another couple extra points. So all in all, 5 points were left off the table there. This could have been a bigger win for the Bears, but that's what stood out to me. They were very disciplined. And then at the end of the day, Justin Fields made more plays than Trey Lance did, right? Both guys looked really sloppy for most of the game, as you would expect with the conditions out there. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people take for granted how difficult it is to throw a wet football that's made out of leather. It's not easy. We saw Justin Fields go to the gloves. He doesn't usually go for the gloves. But then he made 2 gigantic plays. Like you said, the play to Pettis when he got out of the pocket and found Pettis wide open across the field, which you never usually like a guy going across his body, but he was wide open. Pettis had the largest yards of separation between another defender for a touchdown in week 1. And then the play that he had to St. Brown for the touchdown was awesome too. And shout out to St. Brown, because not only did he catch a touchdown in week 1, but he was outstanding in the blocking game, including that huge block to help spring Pettis for the touchdown, right? So, all in all, it was your quarterback making plays when he needed to, and your defense playing well and really rattling a second-year guy in Trey Lance in his first real start of his career. And, it was good. Now you go head out to Lambeau Field this weekend. I'll be there in attendance. I can't wait. And hopefully the Bears can steal one. And boy, if this team is 2-0, then, things start really looking up.
Tickets as low as $81, which is incredible to me. Bears Packers, it'll jump. But you touched on it earlier. The penalties was surprising too, right? Where the Bears had only 3 penalties called on them, and that again goes back to coaching and the discipline. I think it goes back to Matt Eberflus's system. It's huge. The skilled position players stepped up, right? You saw. With Dante Pettis, you saw David Montgomery. He had a tough day. You saw that Equanimeous St. Brown. They had one catch. All these guys had Dante Pettis and Equanimeous St. Brown had 1 catch each, and they turned it into touchdowns. Like that's making the most of your advantage. And then going back to the quality of the game in the slop, like it's obviously going to come down to one play or another, and those 2 plays obviously stood out and won the game for the Bears ultimately. It was such a great team win to see that. And obviously just the diving through the muck was such a good celebration there. Mm-hmm. It was wild. I know Cliff, one of our Barflies, was talking about how the offensive line performance was really good. It was at the tops of 32 teams, one of the tops of the 32 teams, that is. And I think Tevin Jenkins, really stepped up. You saw obviously Lucas Patrick, like what a great addition he was there, and Cody Whitehair. I think from inside out, you saw those adjustments, and Joey Bosa was pretty well contained. He got one sack. You knew he was going to get something, but obviously stymied by the weather too. It was a great team win. Now the focus obviously shifts over to Green Bay, and we saw how the Packers obviously struggled in a divisional game, and we kind of expected that when, obviously Aaron Rodgers has lost his man, and right off the bat, one of his wide receivers just drops an errant pass, a deep dime that should have been an easy touchdown, and that momentum could have easily just carried back over into the game, and it might have been a closer game at least. Who knows if they would have won, but the Packers, losing at the hands of the Vikings and mostly Justin Jefferson, they play different at Lambeau, right? And that was an off game from Aaron Rodgers. We know he brings it, but it can't be said enough that if you're the Bears or the rest of this NFC North right now, you're licking your chops because you finally see Aaron Rodgers kind of hurt on the offensive line, not as the great, unit front five in front of him, protecting him going into the rest of the season, and especially the Bears into this game too at home. The wide receiver problem, obviously there, Devontae Adams, when he went off and, in a Raiders uniform, went off for more than the the Packers receiving core combined. This is going to probably swing the Bears' way, you would think. I'm turning into the optimist here, and you think it's going to be a nice, crisp, clear kind of summer meets fall night when you go into Lambeau Field. But I talked about the keys going into this game. Ross, what do you think are one of the Bears' chances, and then what are those keys?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, the Packers are still the heavy favorites in this football game, right? Just because a couple things. Matt LaFleur has never lost as Packers head coach. He's never lost back-to-back games since he's been in Green Bay, which has been for a couple of years now. You have to feel like Aaron Rodgers is not going to struggle 2 games in a row, and he's going to want to come out and put on a show in Lambeau. It's Sunday Night Football. He's going to be working hard with those receivers all week. It looks like Allen Lazard might be able to get back on the football field this Sunday, which is going to be huge because that essentially is his number one wide receiver. But listen, David Bakhtiari is still out. I don't think David Bakhtiari is going to play meaningful football ever again in his career. And, that Packers offensive line had a couple of holes. And to be honest with you, that's how you attack Aaron Rodgers this weekend, is the Bears are going to have to generate some pass rush. Dominique Robinson, 5th-round rookie draft pick, had 1.5 sacks from Sunday. He's going to have to come out there and kind of replicate that again this week. You want to see Robert Quinn really get some pressure. You want to see maybe Matt Eberflus dial up a couple blitzes, and Alan Williams, defensive coordinator, dial up a couple blitzes, and maybe see if they can kind of heat up Rodgers and speed up that clock a little bit. On the flip side, the Bears did not blitz Trey Lance at all on Sunday. They got all of their pass rush just from their front four, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see Roquan Smith and Jaquan Brisker and guys like Eddie Jackson, Kyler Gordon coming off the edge and trying to heat up Rodgers a little bit, right? Because you can't allow him to stand back there and pick your secondary apart. I think Jalen Johnson is going to be able to come out. He's going to be able to guard Lazard very well. I think Lazard is hobbled right now, so I'm not worried about Johnson. But you still have Kendall Vildor out there. I get a little bit concerned about him on the outside. Kyler Gordon looked really good in the running game and playing at the line of scrimmage, but he did get burned on that one play that led to a big gain to one of Trey Lance's better throws of the day, right? So, you need a pass rush on Sunday to go against Aaron Rodgers. And on the offensive side of the football, you got to hope that Justin Fields is able to, we talked about this in the offseason, in the preseason. 3 steps, get the football out. Get him into a rhythm. 3 steps, ball out. 3 steps, ball out, right? And really kind of, get some of these wide receivers, quick passes and then going downhill and allowing them to kind of use their speed and athleticism to break some tackles. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Blue Jones is going to be able to play this week. He's still rehabbing that hamstring injury. Hopefully he'll be out there for week 3, but you got to get Darnell Mooney heated up. He didn't really do anything in week 1, right? The one target he had was the interception that Fields threw. which basically was kind of double covered. You got to get Darnell Mooney heated up. You got to get Cole Kmet in this passing game. You got to get these guys into rhythm and start, let them cook a little bit. And this might be blasphemy to Bears fans to hear this, but I need to see more Khalil Herbert over David Montgomery at this point. I think he's a better.
Wow.
I think he's a better fit in this kind of zone running scheme. I think he's got more burst and more juice. And his nickname is Juice. And I think if you look at the all 22 from this last week, David Montgomery really struggled. He struggled to kind of find a hole. He struggled to kind of bounce the football outside, and I think that showed. And Khalil Herbert right now just seems to be the more dynamic back for the Bears. I need to see more of him out there. Obviously, he's not the pass blocker we want him to be. Montgomery's better there, but I think there needs to be more of a 50-50 split going forward.
Wow. Well, you see, I mean, to that point, Ross, that's what we're seeing in most backfields. If you look at Jacksonville or Kansas City or a lot of the top backfield, you saw certainly more of a balance with Dalvin Cook coming off an injury within the division with Minnesota. But man, Khalil Herbert, hard to think of that when David Montgomery is one of those guys who's been breaking tackles left and right and was clearly the lead dog for a while there. But you hit on a lot of things as far as keys for that Bears-Packers matchup. And man, it goes back to me to obviously getting pressure on Rodgers. And, if the Bears did this well and their young rookie Robinson did so well, getting pressure to Trey Lance, if they did that well in the slop and guys are like trying to double team Robert Quinn and Robert Quinn is being mostly occupied and there's no David Bakhtiari to be seen, you could finally get some pressure there. I mean, Khalil Mack is gone. Robert Quinn, you're that dude. Same with Al-Qadim Muhammad. He should be able to make his first big plays as a Bear, I would think. And then this secondary playing on a clean field, no elements to speak of on a nice, crisp Lambeau field like it's going to be on Sunday Night Football. Man, they're going to play well, I would think. I think the rookies are really going to show up. As far as the offense is concerned, obviously you want to contain Aaron Rodgers, and Allen Lazard is coming back just to put a pin on that. But as far as the offense is concerned for the Bears, Justin Fields, man, just keep going, right? Like if you could throw a couple dimes on two passes on like a relatively shitty day in the rain, and a down day for both quarterbacks when it was him and Trey Lance going at each other, then you should be able to spread it around, right? You should be able to find Cole Kmet. You should be able to build some more chemistry with Equanimeous St. Brown. You got a guy like Darnell Mooney who's supposed to be that number one, and spread it around. If it has to be, Griffin, it has to be backup wide receivers. The question too is monitoring Velus Jones is what's going to be his impact onto this offense. But you got to be balanced. And we know, I think it was pretty evident, even though the weather dictated a lot of the plays, even when it didn't, you had to throw the ball at some point. You had to take shots. But, the rain in game one versus game two, you're seeing Matt Eberflus and Luke Getsy, really. Luke Getsy, close to getting that game ball. We know that obviously Brian Poles and Matt Eberflus got those game balls. But Luke Getsy called a pretty great game. And Matt Nagy was gimmicky. He had some questionable not going in for on fourth downs or going for it too much on fourth downs. Like it was just too inconsistent. I think Luke Getsy gets it. I think Eberflus also knows the flow of the game where it'll be a lot more balanced at that point. So I know that Green Bay obviously should be favored. It's Lambeau. They have the slight edge in the all-time series against the Bears. But, man, it's going to be a very close game, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope so, right? Again, I just want to see Justin Fields really get into a rhythm. Listen, the weather really complicated things for him out there. I kind of throw away a lot of week one, I think, for both guys. Listen, I'm a Trey Lance fan, and I know he's taken a lot of shit this week from Bears fans. He's taken a lot of shit this week from the national media. It was a freaking monsoon on Sunday. I don't give a good goddamn who you were. Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, anything like that, you're not going to be able to effectively throw the football in those kind of conditions. Those guys, those two young guys, I thought made the best of their situation. I would have liked to have seen them both play in like a 65-degree day with just beautiful sunny skies. I think we would have gotten a different result from both players, which is why I'm anxious and I want to see Fields go out there on Sunday fingers crossed for me, because I got to sit in that stadium, and also for the players, that we don't need rain, right? Because we can start to really evaluate these guys in better weather situations. And I'm rooting for Trey Lance. I don't like the fact that we've got to shit on some of these young guys in year 2. It's year 2. They have so much growing to do. They have so much football ahead of them, and I'm not a big fan. So, to me, it's all about getting this offense into a rhythm. I think Luke Getsy was really limited in what he could run on Sunday, and I think that he's going to be able to open up the playbook a little bit more. I don't agree with that statement that the rain and wind does affect your reads. If you've never put a helmet on, it looks like this when you're inside a helmet. And then when it's piss pouring rain, it's even harder to see a football. And then also back that up with the fact that you got receivers out there that are very difficult to run routes. You can't plant your foot into a turf. It's a brand new turf, by the way, and be able to cut and move and stop on a dime. I completely wholeheartedly disagree with that statement. I think it's completely asinine. But the beauty about this is we have 16 more games to evaluate this. So if you're writing Trey Lance off or Justin Fields off, or even Trevor Lawrence or anybody else off after week 1, I think it's one of the stupidest opinions out there. I respect your opinion. I think it's absolutely stupid. I will reserve all of that until the end of the season, and then we could talk about it then.
I want that clip, Aldo. I respect your opinion. I think it's stupid, egregious, erroneous, outrageous. That's what I think. To your point about Trey Lance, yeah, I wasn't one of those guys who would just drag him through the mud immediately. Like, dude, both these quarterbacks played their asses off, like tried to make the most of their opportunities. One just had more than the other, right? I mean, it just comes down to these big play opportunities. And Trey Lance, we've seen this. Like, obviously, with the Jimmy Garoppolo shit in the offseason, too, it kind of, was that monkey on his back, so to speak, where he had to outperform. And now people are calling, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo will be the starter by October. I think a lot of people just think that's a lot of bullshit. And obviously the Niners have invested so much in Trey Lance. They know what he can do as a mobile quarterback. They also know, too, that the majority of these games will be played in sunny California. They will be in domes, and he'll be fine. He's, again, a younger quarterback, so it's all good there. And
Trey Lance has all the tools in the book. He's got a good head coach that is going to be able to scheme plays for him. Wait till he gets George Kittle back on the football field.
Exactly. Yeah,
Fields and Lance will both be fine. All right, let's see how this all plays out. The week 1 hot takes, they are a flying as always.
They're so wild. It's one goddamn game, and it's like Ross said, we have 16 more to go. We can go on these, and you're obviously, we're about to talk about the rest of the NFL in a moment here, but putting a pin on Bears and 49ers, where they go from here, and Bears going into the Packers. With Justin Fields, it's a positive thing, but I've said repeatedly on this show, and Trey Lance might be negative. You might be calling, if you're a Niners fan, for his head or whatever. It is week 1. It was this sloppy game where you really can't have too many takeaways. I think obviously it was gritty football games, and it came down to a lot of big play opportunities where you make the most of two big passes here and there, and you're not really going to have a good kicking game, so to speak of. But it is a long season. The Niners went into this last game being one of the top defenses in the league. And they're going to play really good on turf, in a dome, wherever, in crisp, clean weather. And the Bears, we knew that this defense was revamped too. So we knew it was going to be a slop from there because the offenses were going to struggle. One quarterback just made a couple bigger throws than the other. Could have easily went the other way, right? So you can't take a lot, even if the Bears, the Niners start 0-2, Bears start 2-0. It's a long season, man. And what you want is to stay healthy throughout the entire season. So right now, Trey Lance didn't have all his weapons, right? Justin Fields pretty much has all of his weapons, but anything can happen. I mean, he could have easily went the other way with how terrible the conditions were. So I would say that obviously curb your expectations. Ross with the photo today, though. Goddamn.
It doesn't get any easier for these two young quarterbacks, right? One's got to go to Lambeau Field on Sunday night. Trey Lance has got to go up to Seattle, who's surprisingly 1-0 right now. And we might get rain in both situations. So It doesn't get any easier for these two young guys, but on the flip side of that, this is the NFL, right? You have to be able to perform in adverse situations. Justin Fields made 2 better plays than Trey Lance on Sunday. He's 1-0. He gets to slip slide in the end zone and say that he's 1-0 and live to fight another week, and we'll see what happens.
Now, Ross, real quick as we switch over to the NFL, on the note of Luke Getsy, did you like the play calling for the most part? I feel like the coordinators, there was a big microscope under them, and obviously a lot of fresh blood there. But I feel like I liked it, right?
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought, here's what I liked is I thought in the first half he was, their defense was really getting the better of the Bears. But what I liked was, Getsy kind of switched it up in the second half. He had a little bit more motion. He was able to get Fields out more on the edge there. I think we saw a lot more Khalil Herbert. Like I said, that's going to be a theme throughout this season. David Montgomery really just did not have it on Sunday for whatever reason. And I thought he got a little bit more creative. Now he gets to go to a stadium that he's very comfortable with against a team and a defense that he knows very well because he was on that staff last year. It's going to be really interesting to see what he has in store for the Packers. I think Matt LaFleur is going to be trying to really guess what guess he's going to have and maybe pull some wrinkles out of his tank. But like I said, I think you're going to see, as long as the rain holds off and the field holds up and it looks good out there, I think you're going to see the Bears going to a lot more Khalil Herbert with a lot of zone read, a lot of stretch plays. I think you're going to see Justin Fields in a lot more 3-step drops and trying to get him into a rhythm, get the football out of his hands quickly. Then you're going to see a lot of play action as well. And they're going to do play action and really trying to get Justin Fields out on the edge because I think we've seen already throughout his young career, that's where he makes his best plays, right? He makes his most dynamic plays when he's out on the edge and he can scramble and he's still looking down the field to throw the football. I personally, if I were to say what Justin's next big step is to take in his career, he's got to learn how to trust his offensive line more. He's got to be able to stay in that pocket that they're creating for him and make those subtle moves to the left or right and stepping up in the pocket. Guys like Tom Brady do that the best. Aaron Rodgers, guys like that do that the best. And just trust what you have in front of you and make the play from within the pocket. If Justin Fields started just doing that fairly consistently, he's going to be a really good quarterback in this league.
Man, you're not lying, Ross. So talking about the rest of the NFL, obviously week 1 in the books here, and I love the updates from Cliff, by the way, as he's talking about the Chargers.
So I have the game on right in front of me, which a couple things. Number one, Jeff Bezos, it looks like I'm like on the field right now. It's beautiful.
Incredible. So it's like the Apple, dude, between Amazon and Apple, they're coming for these big networks. Apple baseball games were nuts. Like I don't really say like, oh, this baseball game looks good, but I feel like I'm on the field. I don't have the background. I need to.
But the only thing is, Cliff must have like better Amazon. He must get like his Amazon Prime packages faster than me because he's like 2 plays ahead of me every single time. Maybe I gotta like refresh it or something. But so that's the thing with streaming is like somewhere somebody like depending on internet or what's going on or if your kid is playing Nintendo or whatever, you might be like 3 plays behind on somebody, right? That's what you get. That's the downside of streaming is somebody's going to get something at different speeds. So he's like 2 plays ahead of me right now, but it looks beautiful. The broadcast looks amazing, and shout out to Cliff as always for the comments and the updates.
As Ross said, at Ross Reed on Twitter, all your bullshit purchases, like my Amazon, my AirPods that I purchased yesterday, went straight to that streaming service.
4K cameras.
Money well spent. Bad day for Jeff Bezos. He's dropped several billion. We'll get to that later. Nah, he's fine. He's fine. But man, leading off, as far as takeaways go, obviously the contenders, we know that the Bills and the Chiefs are still very much the class of the AFC. I know that certainly a lot of people knew that the Bills were going to be the favorite going into this game against the Rams last week, and how they thumped the Rams 31-10 at the Rams' house. By the way, was super impressive. And then obviously Chiefs going in and playing the Cardinals, beating them 44-21 was nuts. I think Joe Burrow with his struggles concern some people, but it's just one game and it's a divisional game where you throw out records, you throw out expectations. But other than that, man, I mean, it was very close for a lot of these games. You saw the Saints Falcons game, Steelers Bengals was again very close. That Eagles Lions game was fun to watch too. And then you saw Jaguars and Commanders, Browns, Panthers, Colts, Texans. The first tie of the season happens. Like, give me a fucking break. Like, come on, man. We're still seeing this in overtime. We see it at 20-20. We see a 0-0-1 record for two teams. It's just awful. Giants, Titans, but the contenders, again, we're seeing them, and there were some divisional matchups, so you kind of, again, throw records out of the way. But as far as the classes of both conferences go, right, you see the Bills and the Chiefs there, and then Tampa going in and thumping the Cowboys. The NFC, it's looking pretty open, as we talked about, Ross. It's AFC is pretty competitive, and how that's going to be. And then the Monday night game, like, oh my God, I don't know what was going on in Denver at that point. But what were some of your biggest week one takeaways as we head into week two right now?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Cowboys look like crap, and that was before Dak Prescott went out. I think a lot of people forget Dak Prescott got the injury late in the fourth quarter. They were already done, right? I thought the Philadelphia Eagles were really putting a stamp on that game and really looking like a big contender. And then they let the Lions back into the game. The Lions only lost by 3 points. That game was 38-35. But what really stood out for me, you got to stay within our own division. The Minnesota Vikings, I mean, they came out. Kirk Cousins had 277 yards. Justin Jefferson finished with 184 yards. They just absolutely demolished the Packers 23-7. They look like a very good, complete football team on both sides of the ball. I told people, look out for the Vikings this year. I bet money on them to win that division this year. I think they're a good football team. I think the coaching change was severely needed for them. I think Justin Jefferson is one of the three best weapons in football, along with Cooper Kupp and Josh Allen. And in the AFC, we talked about this, and I put some money on it too. But Lamar Jackson is pissed off. Lamar Holmes sounds like a boxer.
He does, yeah.
Lamar Jackson's pissed off. He doesn't have a contract. He saw Kyler Murray, who's 0 for 24 when Call of Duty has double XP points. And he saw Deshaun Watson, who is not allowed within 10 feet of a massage, therapy place right now. And he saw these guys get paid, and he didn't get money, even though he's got an MVP trophy on his mantle. And he took it to the Jets on Sunday. Now, granted, it's the Jets, but I think this is going to be a common theme for him all season long. I really like the Ravens a lot this year. I think they're a really good coached football team. I think that team is tailored to what Lamar can do. And, I think it's going to be scorched earth. What surprised me in a negative way was what the Bengals looked like. And Joe Burrow had like 4 interceptions. He did not look good. That whole offense looked sloppy. They still were within a McPherson kick from winning the game. If the long snapper doesn't botch it on 2 separate chances, they win that game, which also is a little bit of a testament to our old buddy Mitch Trubisky, who was very up and down. But it was very surprising to me what
still want to know
what the Bengals. Yeah, still want to know, right? What the Bengals look like in that game, as Pat Mahomes just do a crazy sidearm touchdown right now to McKinnon.
Ooh. Yeah,
Pat Mahomes is doing Pat Mahomes things. Listen, Pat Mahomes could have had 6 touchdowns on Sunday if they didn't take their foot off the gas against the Cardinals. So he's also right there with the MVP. It's going to be a Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson MVP race this year.
I want you and Cliff doing the play-by-play in color for this game.
Yeah, listen, they want to pay me like Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. I am all in.
Or like Joe and Troy on Monday Night Football. What'd you think of Monday Night Football with them? Oh, it's Gabe calling.
Yeah.
Did you like Joe and Troy on ESPN? It wasn't really different, just a different network, right?
It was just a different network, exactly. Same thing. I am a big fan of Jordan Troy, though. So I've always loved those guys.
They have aged, bro. You see it. Talk about quality. Like you see the booth has aged them over however many years they have been there. But just like, obviously we're not seeing Al and Chris as much these days, but between those two duos, it's something. As far as your takes on, you like what the Ravens are doing. Can I say I'm a fan of what Washington's doing? You're playing Jacksonville, and not a lot is expected from Jacksonville, and you're at home. But Carson Wentz lit it up. He had 4 touchdowns. This is a guy who's come off a lot of injuries, all these expectations. And, again, all you got to do is win the NFC East, and then who knows what happens. So I feel like between them and the Eagles, we'll see some big competition there. I really liked what I saw. And then we know that Antonio Gibson and he's such a multifaceted back. I don't know where Terry McLaurin on 2 catches still was able to get 1 touchdown out of it. I really, I like this team. I feel like, again, the Eagles, like I've been predicting, they're a high-scoring, ridiculous team with A.J. Brown now an Eagle going off for the tune of 155 yards, and Jalen Hurts only at 243 yards. That tells a lot right there. Detroit might be good, might be competitive enough to go and compete at least in the NFC North, because that looks pretty damn wide open at this point. But Steelers winning a very Steelers type of football game where they're overcoming an injury to TJ Watt and overcoming a Mitch Trubisky type performance in that game. But the rest of the week 1, it's like we say, week 1 you can't take a lot with you take it all with a grain of salt. But that it does come back to I think the Buccaneers and these top teams playing at that other level. And it was a divisional game. It's back-to-back divisional games for the Chargers. The Chargers winning against the Raiders in a pretty tight game, in a late afternoon game like that. And Justin Herbert's that dude. And I know that obviously we're seeing a pretty tight game right here, so it could easily be very similar. And then Buccaneers doing Buccaneers things. Tom Brady had a down game, but playoff Lenny and Mike Evans, there were a couple huge plays by them. Going in and beating the tar out of the Cowboys. But I don't know. I think the head coach for the Broncos was tweeting he's playing too much Madden at this point, because it came down to put the ball in Russell Wilson's hands to try and go 4th and 5 and extend this game. And obviously not taking the timeout was just dumb. If you're watching the Manning cast as well, when either team, this could have swung either way in this type of game. But man, you'd think that Russell Wilson would have lit it up a bit more. Obviously, he was getting booed in the home of the 12th man. But, him in a Denver Broncos jersey is still very weird to me. But it was a hell of a week 1. Did we miss anything on the note of week 1? As now we're, again, seeing Chargers-Chiefs on Thursday Night Football?
No, I don't think so. I think we saw a lot of exciting football, right? Like we saw – so it was funny because after the Bears game was over, I immediately switched to the red zone, and that's when you saw, like, 4 games just going down the stretch, and they were all quick. A couple overtime games. We had a tie. We had the Lions trying to make a crazy comeback in that game. And so, the NFL, as always, never disappoints, right? Even the later games were pretty good. I'm surprised that the Giants won their game against the Titans. Brian Daboll showing some stones there at the end and really going for the win. I thought that was awesome. And then we capped it off, like you said, with the Seahawks and Geno Smith just kind of coming back and taking it to Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. What an absolutely abysmal coaching job by him. I feel like he had a lot of that. I feel like he has a lot of Matt Nagy in him, and it's going to be interesting to see how that football team responds, because you pay a guy over $200 million and you trade a couple first-round picks for him. I need the football in Russell Wilson's hands to end that game there. And if Peyton Manning can say the words timeout, Peyton Manning can say the words timeout like 62 times in about 1 minute, that was ticking off there, and they still don't call it timeout. They let all that time go off, and then they don't put the ball in Wilson's hands in 4th and 5. That's just poor coaching right there. And that's not believing in your quarterback. That's not believing in your football team. And he's got a lot of work to do this week to fix that, because that's just uncalled for. This guy's got a Super Bowl trophy on his mantle. You need to get the ball in Russell Wilson's hands, not your kicker to try and kick a 63-yard field goal in Seattle.
I just couldn't believe that when that happened, and obviously the backlash was very fierce on that Tuesday. But you do pay Russell Wilson this much, man. Give your team a shot, and he was He had to be real pissed off at that. So looking into week 2, obviously the game of the week on Sunday Night Football, that is, would be Bears Packers. But outside of that, the divisional games, Buccaneers Saints. We didn't even mention how Jameis Winston is just such a treat and such a weirdo at this point in his career. But he's doing whatever he can to help his team win. Between him and Taysom Hill, look out for the Saints. That'll be a good noon slate game between Bucks and Saints. As we look throughout the league, the Rams, they'll bounce back probably against this Falcons team that looks to be one of the worst in the league at this point. Seahawks, they're 1-0 against the Niners. Can the Niners bounce back? Bengals, Cowboys without Dak Prescott right now. You think the Bengals would bounce back, and Joe Burrow shows you he's the same type of caliber player that he was last year, and that 4 interception performance was just some weird anomaly. Cardinals Raiders also could be pretty interesting when you see Kyler Murray and Derek Carr going at each other too. And then we get a double header on Monday night with Titans Bills and Vikings Eagles. Man, that's pretty good right there. Anything that you are specifically looking for in your week 2 matchups, Ross? Any changes in the narratives, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, what's going to happen with the Patriots, right? The Patriots struggled, we won in Miami, and Matt Jones right now is battling some issues, and then we have, they got a couple injuries in that situation there. But are they going to start 0-2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers? They have to go to Pittsburgh now. That's going to be a really tough football game. And then I think even the Colts, right? The Colts are supposed to be the favorites in the AFC South. And they look pretty bad in week 1, and now they got to go to Jacksonville, which is going to be really hot and muggy. Michael Pittman Jr. hasn't practiced this week. He didn't practice today, so is Matt Ryan not going to have his best receiver out there? Man, if the Colts start 0-2 and they already released their kicker this week, if all of a sudden Frank Wright is on the hot seat there. And then, to me, it's like a must-win as well for the Cardinals and the Raiders. And so that gets to be a really interesting West Coast matchup there, because both of those teams really can't start 0-2 either, in my opinion. They're going to be really falling behind there. So we're going to have some really fun matchups. I think that, everybody's going to kind of get their sea legs underneath them from week 1. I think we're going to see a lot more offense in week 2. I think we're going to see some pretty good football games, even Tennessee going up to Buffalo. That's a really difficult game for them, but that should be fun. But that Vikings-Eagles game could be the marquee matchup right there. Kirk Cousins having to go to Philly and battle it out against Jalen Hurts, right? Both those teams are really trying to show that they are the class of the NFC, and it's there for the taking, in my opinion. And so both teams are really going to be fighting hard to go out there and improve on the national, the national stage that they do belong, and they're one of the best in the NFC.
Boy, like all the shit we give Kirk Cousins over the years, he just, obviously has the benefit of Justin Jefferson, who's a top 5 receiver in both our books, and arguably top 1 after a performance like that between him and Jamar Chase and Devontae Adams. Like, they're all 1A, 1B, 1C, depending on the week, right? And depending on the matchup. But Vikings putting together a very complete game. So, the NFC North is going to be exciting for one. But that Eagles-Vikings game, like you said, could be very, very close. And shout out to Detroit. They didn't have really the Hard Knocks curse. I know you left with a loss, and you're basically like 0-17 at this point. And Dan Campbell is just a walking meme at this point. But it was an impressive performance for them to put up 35 to the Eagles 38. It was something else, man. But week 2, headlined again by Bears Packers on Sunday Night Football. A lot can change for these teams. A lot can be very different from what you saw in week 1, aka the Bengals performance and the Rams performance. Rams, I definitely see bouncing back, and those tops stay towards the tops, depending on the division. And I know it starts certainly with how we're watching the NFL right now, and the Chargers and Chiefs. Like that's a great Thursday night matchup right there. I feel like Thursday night matchups have been pretty trash in recent history, and I don't know why. You probably know more than I do, Ross, about why the Monday nighter is not in week 1, Monday night doubleheader, is not in week 1 and not, or it's in week 2 and not week 1 now. I don't get that, but I'm enjoying it.
They they pulled in a couple of those here.
Pause for dramatic effect. All right, Ross. Last 5 minutes. What we got? We're going to 8:15. Kanye and shitting on Gap. He's not going to have Gap or his Adidas sponsorship anymore. What's up with that?
Evan's internet is breaking up on me. I can't understand what he's saying.
All right, we're
You
bowing
still
out.
there,
I
Evan?
guess.
You back?
I'm still there. Yeah, I've been talking.
Yes,
If anybody can
yes.
hear me, yeah.
There you're back.
All right. All right.
Coming up though at 9 p.m. we've got the Bear Debate Show. Daniel Goodwin of the Three Kings podcast and Larry Goldwyn of the Barroom Debate one another. So we will be back next week. Evan and I might switch time zones again. We'll definitely let you guys know. But until then, enjoy the Bears game. Enjoy the show at 9 p.m. and peace out, everybody. Have a good night.
Peace.